Welcome to Kindred, hosted by me, Kate, and my sister, Jen. In this podcast, we explore our human relationship to animals and nature. The abrupt human disconnect created by the pandemic, like for many of us, turned my world and business, Otis and Roo dog collars, upside down. But it also emphasized the critical need in myself and others to reconnect to animals and nature for our overall well-being.
Join us every week as we interview scientists, conservationists, animal advocates, authors, and many others.
In connecting to our world, we also connect to compassion, empathy, and understanding. How can we see ourselves as not separate from animals and nature, but as a part of an active ecosystem? Welcome to Kindred. Thank you so much for joining us. How are you today, everyone? And how are you, sister?
Good morning. I'm excited that we're finally here and launching episode 1. This has been a long time in coming.
Yeah, me too. I am incredibly excited, incredibly grateful. Can't wait to share all of the interviews we have for you guys and the incredible experiences we have had through listening to our guests. And can't wait to share that with you. And a little bit about how Kindred came about in 2020 spring, like everybody else. My business, Otis and Roo dog collars, was shut down. And through that business, I give back to animals in need. And when we shut down, it meant that there was just nothing happening, no markets, no on the ground selling. And it just suddenly, there was a void. And I had to rethink and sort of refocus on where I wanted to take the business, which ultimately was online. And I also felt this deep call to create a platform where I can have a larger voice and ultimately to start a conversation that will help not just our own human well-being, but those of animals and nature. And so that's how Kindred came about, through a lot of work and a lot of incredible research and finding just the most amazing humans who are doing the work to pretty much save the planet. And you and I, Jen, have talked about how we want to also learn and listen, and how can we change our everyday life, and not just our, the call to action that we can take, but also our mindset and change our understanding and just get reconnected to this innate connection that we were born with, and try to, I guess, for me, learn how Mother Nature has this all set up in a way that if we can reconnect and understand, just how can we be a better support? So this is Kindred today.
Yeah. And I think a huge part of it, the same as other people are doing in 2020 and 2021, trying to amplify the voices that have not been heard prior, perhaps, and that are very important to hear. And I think that's a huge part of what called me to this, is that it's a way to amplify those voices. It just hits you right in the heart.
Yeah, it really does. It's an emotional experience. And there's often times when you and I are done speaking with someone that we're just blown away and our hearts are changed. And it's incredible. And one way to contact and be in contact with us a little bit more is through our website. So if you want to drop us a message or like a topic you'd like us to cover, anything, go to kindredpodcast.co. You can find us there. You can also find links to our social media and Patreon page, and all of that is also on the website. And all our links are going to be in the show notes. So if you can too, after you hear this episode, please get on and rate and review and subscribe, and you can subscribe to anywhere you listen to your podcast. So that would be amazing. And leaving a review is super easy. You can even just touch these 5 stars or the stars, hopefully 5 stars.
Please touch 5 stars.
Please just, it's instead of doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, just hit the last one and it goes right to 5. It's super easy. And also you can leave any kind of comment. It could be like, I love ponies, or anything you want. It doesn't have to be a long drawn out review. So that would be amazing. If you guys could do that. Thank you for that in advance. Now we want to get to introducing our first guest. Today we are talking to an archaeologist out of UCL London. So that's University College of London. And her name is Charlotte Frearson. And today we will be talking to her about her connection to her dog. She has anxiety, and she got her dog Indy, who I actually came across on Instagram. So you can find Charlotte Frearson through her dog Indy, which is Archaeo underscore whippet. So it's ARCHAEO underscore whippet, like archaeology, but Archaeo. And his name is Indiana Jones's Whip, which is hilarious and adorable. But Charlotte is, she is the student recruitment and experience officer. Also, she's the field work and placement coordinator and careers tutor. So she does a lot at the college there. And today she is going to link the very long-standing relationship we have had with dogs, starting with man and wolf, and how that relationship connected and grew, and then to man and dog, taking us 50 or 58,000 years ago to present day, and living in a big city with an anxiety. She's a representation of how that bond and that relationship has evolved. So we're really excited to talk to her. Let's head over to the episode and hope you guys enjoy it. Charlotte Frearson, hello, how are you?
Hi, how are you? I'm well. Yes.
I am doing well. So I just wanted to start with you introducing yourself and telling us a little bit about you.
Okay, I'm Charlotte Frearson. I work currently at University College London in central London. So imagine most people know the British Museum. We're about 5 minutes walk from the British Museum. So as an archaeologist, I'm basically living everyone's dream. I have an undergraduate in archaeology and a master's in human evolution and primate behaviour, which was quite a segue. And then I did some other stuff, and now I work at the university with students. And yeah, so that's me. Yeah.
Nice. And where did you grow up?
So I was born in Essex, and for anyone in this country knows Essex as kind of, well, let's say we're known as Essex girls, which isn't necessarily a good thing.
I've heard of Essex girls. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, we drove through Essex in Maine a few years ago, and I was like, Essex. It wasn't quite the same, but yeah, I was born in Essex, and then we moved to the Middle East. So we moved to Bahrain with my dad's work because he was in the Merchant Navy, and we moved out there. And I must say, I like the sunshine, and I think living in the Middle East when I was a kid ruined my life because of all the sunshine. And then we moved back to the UK, and it was horrible because there was no sunshine and it wasn't hot, and I like heat, and I'm kind of small and quite thin, so I really like the heat. The cold just I feel I'm like a whippet. I hibernate. So yeah, we lived in Bahrain, and it's a I know we might chat more about it, but archaeology in Bahrain is really amazing, and it's where I kind of got the love of archaeology from. So yeah, we lived there, and then we moved back to Essex, went to school in Essex, did my first archaeological dig in Essex. Then I went to London for a year, and now, like 20 years later, I'm still here. So yeah, I think my upbringing was it was lovely. If my parents are listening to this, it's true. I loved my upbringing, loved being a kid, and I'm still a kid. I think at 39, I'm still playing with Lego. So,
That's great.
Yeah.
So what was it like to be a little one in the Middle East? What did you do as a little Charlotte?
Cripes. I basically went to like a Montessori school, so there was a lot of eating of crayons and feeling learning, it was the most amazing time because you get off the plane there and the heat hits you, and then you walk around in a caftan. I never had any shoes on, so I've got completely flat feet. Genuinely, didn't wear shoes. And it was the most wonderful 3 years. We only went to school in the mornings because it was too hot in the afternoon. So we went swimming in the afternoons, went to the beach, did gymnastics, ruined my hips. Yeah, and it was magnificent. It was the best childhood.
Well, that actually sounds incredible, to not wear shoes and be warm in the desert, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I mean, the island's only 3 meters wide, tiny. 3 miles.
You are small. You said you were tiny.
I'm tiny. I'm like a hobbit. No, the island's only 3 miles, wherever it is, square. I don't know. It's a very small island. And it's very rich in archaeology and rich in history. And you go to the desert and you see old, they're called Dillman settlements. So you see a lot of that out there. And I've got a photo of me when I was about 3, Converse trainers, archaeology, Indiana Jones hat on, like exploring the ruins. Probably shouldn't have. They look very dangerous, but I was one of those kids.
You're fine. It worked out. Crayons and dangerous, free spirit children. Looks like it turned out really well.
Yeah. So it's how I'm so healthy now. Just eating crayons.
They say it's bad. You've proved them wrong. So do you think that was sort of a basis for you that led you to archaeology, or is this just something was already in you?
No, it's definitely the basis. I remember coming back to the UK and being miserable, and I was in the car with my dad, and I looked on the back seat and there was a VHS, so video cassette of Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. And I remember thinking, he knows me, he knows what I want to do. So it was going around all the old settlements and in the desert and pretending to be Indiana Jones in the Middle East that I think made me just want to get involved in history, but also working outside. I've never been much of a indoors person, so yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that sounds incredible. That's amazing. So here you are now in London and doing your archaeology, and I wanted to switch gears just a little bit to how you got Indy, who I see behind you curled up and snuggled and is very distractingly cute. Tell me a little bit about living in London and school, and how that sort of led you to Indy.
Well, so when we came back from the Middle East, I always wanted a dog. And in the Middle East, I wasn't allowed a dog because no one really has dogs. And we came back and my parents were always like, no, we're going to move abroad again. Like flash forward like 20 years and we never moved abroad again. They have, on the side, they did, but I didn't.
Right.
Obviously, when I was an adult, they didn't leave me here as a kid, which would have been cruel. Anyway, so when I lived in London for so long, and then we moved into a flat that we kind of own, which is nice. And the first thing I thought was, okay, we can get a dog, because here it's, the rental contracts all say no animals, you're not allowed to be happy. So as soon as we had a mortgage, I thought, well, we might as well get something good out of this. So we looked into getting a dog, and at the same time I was thinking more and more about things like anxiety, and I don't have kids, so taking care of things, sorry, he's now dreaming behind me and still kicking me, and I just thought, what would make life in London better? And London's a great city, but it can be quite overwhelming. It's noisy, it's busy. It's been weird during lockdown because it has been quite quiet and the traffic's been minimal and the air's been nice, but I just thought, what would make London better? And to be honest, that was a dog. So that led me to this pooch.
Yeah, I mean, Jen and I have 2 dogs and she's now got 1 dog, but it's the balancing of them that changes life. So you got Indy to sort of help manage and sort of help you work with your anxiety then?
Yeah, I went to the doctors, I guess it was about, 6 years ago, something like that. And I was chatting to them about anxiety and how, London and all of that stuff. And they just said, have you ever considered therapy dogs? And I was like, what's that? So I had to look into it. And so there were quite a few academic articles and research into how dogs, as you say, change everything, make everything better. And also I have so OCD, so checking doors, checking everything's off. And they were like, well, maybe take your mind off things, rather than medicating, let's try a dog. And obviously this isn't for everybody, my anxiety isn't that severe. Clearly I was in that massive rut. And yeah, so they suggested a dog, which for me was just like, all right, cool.
Yeah, right. You've been waiting for that permission for a long time.
Yeah. I mean, if they'd have said, I don't know, go get anything else, but so that led me to thinking about dogs. And then because I enjoy research, I did a lot of research. Like these people at the moment who are buying puppies, just buy a puppy. I've got a photo of before we got indie with a notepad and copying things out of a book, like, okay, so what kind of dog should we get? We've got to get one that's good in flats because we live in a flat. Got to get one that's like, quiet. And it was like whippet. Everything led us back to whippet. I even Googled best dog to have in a flat in London. Number 1 is a Doberman. I was like, the silent killer. Let's not get one of those. They don't bark. They just, they scare me. And number 2 was a greyhound. I was like, well, we've got a flight of stairs. I'm not carrying a 30-kilo greyhound up the stairs yet, although I might do soon. So yeah, that led us on to whippets, and they don't bark. Well, he doesn't. And I mean, the only thing is they can be quite anxious, which is ironic that my anxiety dog is anxious, but
well, but then you focus on him instead of you.
Yeah,
though.
Exactly. His anxiety
takes you out of your own sort of moment of OCD or anxiety and focuses you on him. And that's in a really good positive, there's an exchange there too. It's not just about what the focus on him, it's he gives back, and then there's a whole little relationship there, which is really sweet, really, really sweet. So I want to switch gears a little bit and talk about you and archaeology. And you've been recently down some rabbit holes in context to man and canine, and how this relationship that we're talking about now actually all came to be. How did this all start for us Homo sapiens? I'm going to let you, I don't know the big words. So how did this all start for us?
Yeah.
Humans?
So it seems like when you look back at evolution, and at the moment, I think most of it is focused on Homo sapiens, but there is some chat around Neanderthals, so Homo neanderthalensis.
And they're the
country.
Mm-hmm. They're the crew that was before us type thing.
They were it's a bit confusing, but Neanderthals were around the same time as us, so they're technically our cousins.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But they went extinct when we came, when we were kind of evolving into Homo sapiens.
Oh, we just shoved them right out of the way.
Yeah, there's a lot of research going on that's trying to prove that we didn't just kill them all.
Okay. Oh, how surprising.
It's a bit awkward. But in this country we've also got Homo heidelbergensis, and they were prevalent across the south of Britain, so like post Ice Age.
Okay.
And then you've got the kind of the researchers are looking more and more about the kind of symbiotic union of wolves and humans, and more you look at some grave sites and you can see, like at Boxgrave in the UK, you can see there's humans buried alongside, well, not alongside, but around the same time period as wolves. So it's not necessarily they were buried together, but they were certainly there at the same time. So it doesn't say that they were together, but we know that they were there. So whether they were living together or not.
And what kind of year is this we're talking about? Like
Boxgrave is about 100,000 years ago. Okay. So let me just check I'm really bad at dates. So you're talking like early Pleistocene, I think. I'm going to get in so much trouble when I get these dates wrong. But you don't see them. Obviously, there's no writing, so you don't see anything written about why people were doing things or how. So we're going completely on, human remains, artifacts, other remains. And it's not until, and this is where I have to check my notes, it's not until around the upper Pleistocene, so around 58,000 years ago, so that would be Homo sapiens, that they start finding graves with dogs in. And there's a famous one from Germany now that looks like two graves, and there's been a dog that's been buried with them, which is a puppy who had, I think, parvo.
Oh, wow.
And they've clearly cared for that puppy. And now we're talking about dogs, of course. So,
Right, okay.
We're seeing the evolution of humans alongside the evolution of wolves to dogs.
Wow.
And there's a lot of discussion around that. And, did wolves live with humans? So maybe the more passive wolves, maybe the wolves that would, like to be fed by humans. Because, we have this kind of innate desire to feed things. When we were in the woods the other day, there was a crow looking at us. And my friend started trying to feed the crow. I'm like, what are you doing? She was like, crows remember. And then crows are kind to you. I was like, okay, so we're going to domesticate crows? Brilliant. Let's take a crow home.
Right.
But it's that kind of thing. If you continually feed, say, wolves, and then over the generations, they get more and more accustomed, more and more, easy living with humans. And then you end up getting something like the dog that's sitting behind me whilst I sit on the floor and he's on the couch. So,
that evolution makes
short.
100% sense.
Yeah.
Back to these two people that were buried with their puppy. How did they find them? What did they find the humans with? How did they uncover them?
So it was an excavation in Germany, and it was a grave site. So it was two children. Don't kick me. It was two children. They appeared to be buried with. So I think it was just a chance excavation, because that's generally how things work in archaeology, that we have to excavate, like a car park, and we find Richard III in a car park in Leicester.
Of course.
Standard
car parks and farmers. This is archaeology.
Exactly.
Actually, it turns out.
Exactly. I mean, watch The Dig on Netflix. She's found a big mound in her garden. What is it? Sutton Hoo. Don't worry about it. Big old Viking burial. God's sake. Sorry, Anglo-Saxon burial. So they were probably just doing an excavation, and they just came across these burial sites. And then, as archaeologists, we look at all the burial goods and what they're buried with, and they just happened to be buried with a puppy that they'd clearly kept alive. And the important part there is that they kept it alive, which shows that they were caring for it. When we think about it, 58,000 years ago, it's a drop in the ocean. So these people were not any different to us. They were humans. Our brains were very similar. Just because they didn't have iPhones doesn't mean they weren't as intelligent. Probably in a way more so, because they had to, live outside and, fend for themselves. But it's interesting the way we look at dogs now, like you were saying about, looking at the dog and kind of just getting lost and going gooey over the dog. It's this. I was in a queue yesterday for a coffee, and this man was holding a golden retriever puppy in his arms like it was his baby, and he was kind of doing this with it, kind of like you hold a baby and you just shake it to sleep. And I was like, wow, we've all been there.
Is he actually burping the baby, or
I think so.
Yeah, right.
I think so. Yeah.
So now, and if you found these two people with a puppy in Germany, this has to be happening other places too.
Yeah, absolutely. I think looking at now how we feel about dogs on the planet, and if I see a picture of a stray dog in Spain, all I want to do is go rescue it. And that's true for most of the human population. I mean, obviously there are people that don't like dogs, but we don't trust them. So
that's true. That's true.
As I say, we haven't changed that much. So in the same way that we like having animals around us, and that there's something around the way we feel about dogs and the way dogs look at us. And there's a really interesting study about dogs' eyebrows, and obviously they don't technically have eyebrows, but how when they look at you and they give you the puppy dog eyes to get food, you see that wolves don't have it, the wolves that we still have, and equally things like huskies don't have it. So huskies are very much kind of more wolf-like, and I've never been keen on huskies. They've always scared me a little bit. But when I look at Indian, he looks at me and he lifts his little eyebrows, and I'm just like, I will give you whatever you want. If you want a snack, if you want a cuddle, I don't know, but I'll give you whatever you want because of your stupid eyes that are just loving me.
Oh, yeah.
And it's that. And then you start thinking about how, okay, so a dog did that. The human's like, wow, I'll give you everything. The dog's like, I've got everything. What am I going to do? And then they breed from it. And all the puppies are like, wow, we've got everything. What are we going to do? Stay with the humans. So it's the same kind of feelings around dogs that I think have always been there.
Yeah, it is quite a connection. And it does feel like it's an old connection, doesn't it? Because there's a deep sense of continuity there. And I couldn't live without them. So how or why did you introduce Indy to your work life? How did that come about?
So I like to call this my ultimate work win of whatever. So I've been in my job for 12 years. And before that, I was a student in the department. So I carried on. And my role at the moment is, it's a bit of a weird one. It's something like, I'm careers tutor. I know that. I'm careers tutor in archaeology. So it's the University College London Institute of Archaeology, so the UCL IOA. I work with students and I work with incoming students. So I tend to do outreach across the world for archaeology programs. I do field work, I do well-being, which is the important part of where this is going. And my role is something really weird, like student experience officer. I don't really know what that means, but I think it means that I do many different things. So I do all the social media stuff. So I went to my boss one day and I just said, look, the doctors suggested maybe considering the dog. Now, I don't, we live in a flat and we got in touch with the people in the flat and they were like, you can only have a dog if it doesn't bark. If it barks once and someone makes a complaint, the dog's gone. So I was like, no, that can't work. So I was like, okay, I have to take this dog to work. So this will only work if I can take the dog to work. And I walked to work anyway. So I was like, boom, walk to work, walk home, exercise, dog. And I spoke to them at work and they were like, no, that's not going to fly. So I was like, okay. So I walked away and I thought, well, they're academics. So I looked up every single paper that's been recently done, especially across North America, about the effects of having a dog in your workplace. So places like Google and I think probably Patagonia do it, and I think Apple do it as well. They allow you to bring your dogs in, and they look at the effects of having them. And it was something like a increase in productivity of like 80% when people were happier. So
shocking.
I took this to them and I know it's amazing, isn't it? People were happy. So I took this to them and I was like, okay, so I think this can really benefit the students. I think if I train him as a therapy dog, which turned out to be not a lot of training, he's very much a therapy dog. Anyway, I was like, if he gets a therapy dog assessment, which is in this country through a company called Pets as Therapy, and then they work with NHS, they work with schools, they work across lots of different, you can go into like care homes, that kind of thing. And they were like, okay, we'll consider it. So they went away and they literally had to speak to the head of the university, our provost. And they came back, they were like, well, some of them think that, it's a bad idea in case he mauls somebody to death. And I was like, fair. That's fair. I try not to get a dog that does that. And it was kind of decided. I know. Don't maul someone and don't.
That's one more vote against the Doberman, right?
Yeah. When I was like,
Silent
can I
killer.
get a Doberman? Yeah. We get a Doberman or I don't know, some kind of, I don't know, a wolf. Can we get a wolf?
I'm getting a whippet, sort of like getting a cat too, in some ways.
Exactly.
It really is.
I mean, the only person that lost really was me, because I looked into all of it. I was like, boom, okay, good natured, doesn't bark, really good with humans, cat-like. But I didn't think about the fact that he doesn't like walking. And I was walking him to work one day and he was really like stalling and just looking at me like, I hate you, because it's 5 miles each way. And this man stopped me. Went, this man just went, hello, you do know you've got a whippet? And I just looked at him and I was like, I see what you're saying. Yes.
Oh, that's hilarious.
He's like,
I didn't know they
running
didn't like
or
walking.
sleeping. I was like, yes.
Yeah, that's
running or
They don't
sleeping. Oh, it's not exercise. It's just
Yeah.
walking
Gosh, that's
is
so
a waste
funny.
of time for them. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So he just looks at you like, oh, and then so I had to carry him a lot in the early days, which I think then ruined it now, because he's 20 kilos and he looks at him like, could you carry me? It's like,
Oh my
"No."
gosh.
I
that's
thought you were going to
hilarious.
say then you started jogging to work instead to make him happy.
Oh, wow, we tried that once. We tried jogging together and I tripped over him and we both ended up on the floor together.
And he said, see, that
Oh.
didn't work out well, did it?
Just carry
Stop
me,
running.
Mommy.
So we just need to take a quick little break and we will be right back. Hey guys, I wanted to tell you a little bit about Otis and Rue dog collars. We design and produce high quality, small batch dog collars with adorable matching keychains and super cute dog bandanas. We use new ribbon, vintage ribbon, and 100% cotton and wool fabrics. Our styles are one of a kind, and we always design with 3 priorities in mind: quality, style, and comfort. And don't forget, we give you a free matching keychain with your dog collar so you can always match your pup. We are passionate about giving back to our animal community, so with every purchase, we give a portion of proceeds to animals in need. We care deeply about the organizations we support, and we will always keep you up to date on who they are. Go to our website, otisandroo.com, and check out our merch and help support our favorites. That's OTISANDROO.com. otisandroo.com, where we design to create connection. All right, now back to the interview.
But so I got permission, and basically they said, let's see how it goes. So again, it was a bit like the flat situation. If he barks or if he does anything that's crazy, we might have to rethink the situation, which was fair enough. But luckily, from day one in my office, I have an office on my own, so it was all very handy that I'm on the ground floor of our building. I have an office completely on my own. We thought about things like allergies. I mean, the number of things we've written, health and safety documents, we've written risk assessments around him about, what do we do when people have allergies? I mean, luckily, he's not a dog that sheds. He doesn't lick anything. So he doesn't really lick people. Whippets are, as you say, cat-like. They're not exactly those dogs that run up to you to say hi. They're more like, if you have food, I'll consider it, but you'll probably have to come to me. I mean, when people come into my office, they knock and he doesn't even get up. He doesn't look. We have no problem with the postman. He's that kind of dog that's just like, oh, no, it's not worth it. And you watch his head, you watch him tick over, like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? No, I'm just going to sit here. He's a really funny guy. But so the idea was that we support students through it. And luckily it was around, I say luckily, not luckily at all, but it was around 2016 that we got him. He was born on the 4th of May, May the 4th, if you will. And I had him in work from July. And then June time was when Brexit happened in this country.
Oh, right.
So all of our students who were pretty devastated, as were we, were like, can I stroke your dog? But yes. So right from the get-go, and a series of events happened, as we know, through 2016, 17, 18. And the number of students that literally come to my office and say, I don't need to talk to you, Charlotte. You carry on working. I just want to stroke Indy. And they'll sit on the floor in my office and stroke him. And within a couple of weeks, it became very clear that he was pretty popular. I'd never had so many people in my office. And then we started doing therapy sessions at UCL. So we'd they got involved more with the pets as therapy, so they'd get more dogs, and we'd be there, especially around exam time. People would finish their exam and then come over and stroke the dogs. They'd get an excitable spaniel or something, and then there'd be Indy for the people that wanted to stroke a cat dog. And yeah, so it's been going well since then. And whenever I'm in work, he's with me. He obviously, by creating this monster, we've now got a dog with separation anxiety because he's never been without me. Yeah, so he doesn't bark. He's the perfect archaeology dog companion. And I think we've got some students because of him.
As it should be.
As it should, exactly.
It sounds like UCL quickly realized the real value in and certainly students, what an effect that must have to be able to come, and if they're missing their dogs from home, or they just the what happens in the brain, the neurology of what happens, and the chemistry that happens with our bodies, just to be with an animal is so comforting and calming. I think it's incredible that you've done that and introduced that, and it's just so. It seemed inevitable that was all going to work out really well. It sounded like you had the feeling and you're going for it, and it's such a grounding addition to academia, and it's stressful being away from home as a new student, possibly in a new culture.
Well, and I don't know what it's like in Britain, but I mean, I have kids who are almost done college now, but it's been a thing for the past several years that they bring in dogs at exam time. They bring in dogs. That's a thing they do. Oh yeah. And so it's part of the curriculum in a lot of places now. Is you have your exam, you're stressed, you go hang out with puppies. And sometimes, puppies can be more stressful for some people, especially if you're not a dog person. So a dog that's more like a cat is for someone who maybe already struggles with anxiety. Having something jumping at you might not be great. But anyway, that's a thing that in the States, at least, is it's well recognized, and it happens a lot of places. Maybe not people taking their dogs to work yet, but I don't know if that's true, but definitely bringing dogs in at stressful times for the students' sake.
Absolutely.
And they have seen the effects are so positive. Yeah.
Yeah, they're the when I was looking for the academic papers around these studies, they're all North American studies around it. So that was one of the really the big reasons that UCL were happy with the idea, was because he was going to be across UCL kind of dog. So he's even been to he does staff therapy as well. So my partner works at the British Museum, and he's been into, not the British Museum galleries because that's not allowed, but he's been into like the staff quarters, and we've had staff just come to say hi to him. And it's the effect I find incredible. And some people obviously don't like dogs. I'm acutely aware that people don't like dogs, but he doesn't jump up. So, and we keep him away. And I always say to people, if you don't like them, just tell me. I'll keep him away from you. It's not a deal breaker. You don't have to touch the dog.
Exactly.
But
yeah, no, that's amazing. So how overall has Indy inspired you, connected you to yourself, other people, your environment? What has he done for you in terms of balancing your life?
So he has made me, probably some people disagree with this because they know me too well, but I'm 100% in my eyes less neurotic. I see myself as being much calmer, but also much more likely to just get up and do something. So in the past, as I say, it would be like, are all the windows shut? Now, if he's standing by the door, we have to go out. So you start living through them, and everything gets more structured, which I really liked as well. So especially, thinking about it, retrospectively, having him before COVID, and then during our lockdown one, you were only allowed out. It was really, it seems so long ago now, but you weren't allowed out unless you had a very good reason to be out. And obviously, if I've got a dog and no garden, we have to go out because he cannot use the loo. He does not have thumbs. So
yet.
we have to go out.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly, not yet. So I have to take him out, and that routine of you go out every morning, you have to get up and you have to go out. And it got to the stage before him that I'd wake up in the morning and I'd be like, okay, I'm working from home today, because I just couldn't face going to work. I couldn't face going out, and I'd sit around in my pajamas and do work, but there was no reason to leave the house. And that got problematic, alongside things like anxiety, although they all go hand in hand. But then having him, you have to. There's no choice. There's no like, oh, I feel a bit rubbish today, I have to go out. I have to take him out. He's not exactly stressful. As I say, we've been out once for a half an hour walk, and now he's so very tired. But I mean, he's so simple. From having dogs, they don't know about COVID. They don't know about politics. So when we're all getting upset and angry and furious at how the world's just on fire, and the dog's like, I'd like some food now. I'd like a cuddle. Please take me out. They're not thinking about politics. They just want you to stroke them. And I think that's so pure and so something we could just, I used to be quite relatively ambitious. And now I'm like, in 5 years, I'd like to be living in Wales or Scotland, to have him, a donkey and a goat, and to live off the land.
Oh, goals.
Well, and they're so in the moment. I feel like that's a thing for some of us who tend to want to control everything or plan or be prepared for any eventuality. We have to stay in the moment a little bit with them. We can't get too inside our own heads, and we have to put ourselves out for them because they do need us. So we can't just be like, I'm too depressed to take you out today. We'll do it for them because we love them.
You're right. It's so living in the moment with them. And we could all when you're beating yourself up at 4 a.m. about something you said in a meeting the day before that you can't do anything about now. It's happened. It's gone. Just forget it. And we could learn from dogs in that way to just take the pressure off ourselves.
So I just want to wrap this up, but I want to ask you first, though, this bigger conversation. Why do you think this? Obviously, we think this is important, but why do you think it's important in terms of your and our connection to really understanding the deeper underlying connections that we have to dogs and animals across the board? Really, I mean, why is this important to talk about?
I think, at a massive level, when we think about climate change and the way we have impacted the planet. I mean, I studied, primates at university, and the reason I got into that was because of orangutans. And obviously the deforestation in places like Borneo and Sumatra. And you see those films of orangutans fighting with the diggers. And I can't even, I well up saying it out loud. And it's like, you look at an orangutan's face and you see, intelligence, and you see the amazing things that are going on. And we're like, we have wrecked your planet, dude. And we're doing it to all the animals. It's our fault. Whatever anybody's thoughts on climate change are, we are having a negative impact, and we are speeding things up to a point that is obviously hugely damaging and world ending. That's not my dog's fault. He doesn't do that. He breaks wind sometimes, and that's a bit of methane. But apart from that, he's not doing anything wrong. He doesn't use plastic. We even have a hard dog soap, which he insisted we got because he doesn't agree with plastic. But the point is that we are, we're in charge of so much. We're custodians of this planet, and we have all these animals, and we're just ruining it for everybody. And I think when you look at it like that, and you think, God, we have these amazing things, and yet we still want more. We still want more cars, or we still want, jumbos or bigger houses. And yet I feel very happy. As I said, I just want to live in a house. I don't want a big house. I don't want for much. I just really love the company of a dog and other animals as well. So I think the more we connect to nature, and the more we understand that we have this impact, the more likely we are to have the chance to make things at least slightly better for the next generation, and to give them the opportunity to see orangutans, or to live with dogs, or to have a positive impact somewhere. And I think we only do that by interacting with nature. I think that's why it's important that we actually take the time to think about what we're doing with this planet. We all know during the first big lockdown, emissions in London went down, the lack of planes, that the world was suddenly a bit healthier very quickly. And it was so quick that the impact was seen. That's the really big thing. All these people are like, oh, we can't do anything now. It's like, well, we can. And that's just, and having that, having an animal. Also, the other thing about having an animal in the house is that I just think, God, he's just like a step away from a wolf.
Mhm.
I'm basically sitting next to a wolf.
Right. Clearly.
This is a wild animal in my house. I also find that really exciting. Like I'm some kind of Nell or Dr. Dolittle type. So I just think that we can really relate more to what's happening in the world by looking at animals.
Yeah. Well, it's beautifully said, and I appreciate hearing your perspective, and we of course completely agree. And I'm still a little tripped up by your orangutans fighting off the people who are destroying their stories, but that's for another time. The tissues, thank God for tissues here. I'll get them in a second. But Charlotte, thank you so much for chatting with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
Yeah, it's just so interesting to hear you're connecting archaeology to your present day experience with Indy, and how just the whole continuity of it is just incredible. Well, thank you so much, Charlotte. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, guys, this is the takeaway portion of the podcast. So we just wanted to talk a little bit about how we felt about the interview, and just how great Charlotte was, right?
Yeah, she was so funny and so interesting, and so, I don't know, she's just such a breath of fresh air. I feel like I could have just sat and listened to her stories for a long time.
I just wanted to go over just a couple things that I thought were significant and resonated for me, and I think for both of us, and the podcast for sure. Just her highlighting just the huge benefits that Indy has had in her life. It's not just a nice story. It's actually real science to me, and the way it's changed her life, I just found inspiring, and also sort of the empathy for herself that it also created dealing with her anxiety and her OCD, and just the patience and sort of the forgiveness that she has cultivated because of choosing to get Indy.
It seems like what I was taking away from her talking about that too was just how that has destigmatized her anxiety for her too. It's just like, well, this is just what it was for me, and she can talk about that in a way that allows other people permission to have it feel less of a stigma, which I thought was it was like, she didn't say it in those words, but it was sort of an undercurrent that I felt like, oh, that's just the permission that allowed her.
I like that too. No, that's really sweet.
Yeah.
And just a couple things that she had said, you know, having Indy, just there's a list, literally, you know, 100% less neurotic, much calmer, more likely to get up, and was far more motivated, more structure. She loved all that. Getting into the city for walks, discovering parts of London and the woods that she didn't even know existed for the first 16 years of her living there. And the routine, you know, got her thinking outside of herself, like you were just saying, and learning from his simplicity, letting things go.
Yeah.
I thought was such a great point, and more focused on her well-being and able to be in the moment in a positive way. And you guys talked a little bit about that.
Yeah.
Staying in the moment, and permission, forgiveness, moving on, and just overall less critical about herself is great.
Yeah, and like when she said, like when she was walking with him and this guy's like, you know, you have a whippet, right? Like when he was not wanting to walk, and just how the connection to a total stranger too, with humor, and just like, you know what you have there, right? Like it's like that was a connecting, bonding, and that sort of diffusing of any, like sometimes strangers can make us feel anxious, but just that how it connects us to other people in ways that we don't even expect, because, you know, you can talk about the dog because that's a safe thing where you wouldn't just randomly say something to a stranger. They would probably think you were weird. It was just an interesting thing, that thing, and how that humor just like diffuses and connects. That was funny. That was really
absolutely. And it was like a kind exchange,
right.
You know, just a funny, and when she's talking about the guy holding the golden retriever, like you're jiggling the puppy around, like what's happening, but it's funny and it's cute, and it's connecting. Just for a moment, a lighthearted moment with another human because of your dog. And she also talked about how, you know, that we are custodians of this planet, and she's a custodian of Indy, and therefore then she's going to care more, like we all do, if we can care more about our backyard, our community, and then be more aware of what's happening in these ecosystems. It's going to extend and extend and extend.
And not only be more aware, but really take on the fact that it's our responsibility. It's actually if we don't think it's our responsibility, we're just lying to ourselves, because Indy's not using plastics, and like she said, sometimes he breaks wind and has a little methane gas, but I mean, he's not doing it. We're doing it. We're ruining it. So it's like, the point is that sometimes it wakes you up to the responsibility because you all of a sudden see it in your own life, whereas it's easy to just be oblivious and go through life just throwing more trash away and buying bigger cars and having bigger houses and da-da-da-da. And like, because you don't stop and think, but just that it's a wake-up call when, oh, this animal's completely dependent on me.
Right.
I have a responsibility now. It's not just I want him to love me. It's like I need to be a steward of this whole thing. That was very interesting too. And you're that how empathy and responsibility go hand in hand, and compassion and caring. Also, I feel like the other side of that is responsibility.
Yeah,
it's not just enough to love animals. We have to actually take action.
So thanks, guys, so much for joining us in this episode with Charlotte and Indy. Cheers, guys. Lots of love. Kindred is hosted by me and my sister, Jen. Produced by Kat Gaddy and myself. Sound production and editing by Dan Cooper. Original music by Ellie Grace, and our Kindred artwork was created by Lindsay Coffin. Please subscribe, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. And feel free to contact us through our website, kindredpodcast.co, where you can also find all our links to our socials and Patreon page.